Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to business continuity, technical recovery, crisis management, resilience, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Alex Fullick there, and I do respond to everything I get. Today, we have an interesting topic that after nearly 1,000 episodes, either on Voice America, YouTube, or the upcoming stream channel, we have not touched on. And that is our journey from transitioning from business continuity roles to more technical roles in nature. And today's guests are going to talk about that today, and including somebody who's actually been through that. So this is going to be really interesting for a first time, an eye-opener for me. I'd like to welcome back to the show TJ Mead, and I'd like to welcome for her first visit to the show, Aubrey Wade. Welcome, Aubrey. Welcome, TJ.
Thank you, Alex.
Now,
Yeah, thanks for having us.
could you take a 30 seconds to a minute to tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do? Aubrey, could you start us off?
Sure. My name's Aubrey Wade. I've been in resilience for 8 or 9 years right now. It's kind of hard to keep track. I started in a small SaaS company on the BC business side. And then after several years of that, I took a leap into a much larger tech SaaS company and joined an ITDR role, which I did for nearly 3 years. And so that's why this topic is really near and dear to my heart. It was a big move for me, and I'm really excited to talk about it.
Great. And TJ?
Yeah, so my journey has been a little bit different. I've been in the industry over 20 years now. I started out as an engineer and then came over to the non-technical side. Um, I started out as a data center engineer for Unisys, break fix, all that stuff. I did consulting for a long time, started out doing data centers, migrations, virtualizations, consolidations, etc. Accidentally got into IT disaster recovery like many of us do. They said, "Oh, hey, you're a guy with technical skills, like we could use that in ITDR." And then over the years, I started doing more management consulting, which led to more business continuity, operational resilience, that sort of thing. And now I lead technology continuity for Netflix.
Well, welcome both of you here. Now, as I said at the beginning, we're going to talk about that transitioning of roles. So why don't we jump into some of those areas because you both provided some insights and some areas that people should focus on and look at. So let's touch on the first one, which was, I remember, career development. Now, how do you go about doing that and what should we do? Who'd like to go first?
I
Aubrey.
follow your lead, TJ. Oh, come on.
Uh,
That's fine. So in terms of career development, if we're talking about this ITDR focus, I clearly have an opposite experience than TJ, where he started on the technical side and moved into the business. I started on the business side, also got kind of appointed to run business continuity, and then had opportunities to kind of interact with the DR team and was PMOing that for the most part, helping the engineers get organized around their DR projects from a high level. But I think investing in this is so important because for resiliency professionals, in terms of the kind of credibility it gives you and the seat at the table where you can ask those more poignant questions, even if you sit on the business side, you're able to better interact with those ITDR teams that focus on the technical areas. So even if you're not interested in going to this role full on as an ITDR specialist, exposure to this adds a lot of credibility to your, program overall and your ability to apply the things you learn from the business and continuity planning to the DR team and make those connections better across the organization. So my 2 cents on why this matters in your career, whether or not it's the path you're going to take.
Yeah, and I want to add to that too. Uh, we kind of need to talk about realistic expectations when it comes to when we say being more technical. Um, there's different levels of technical, and like I can assure you that for even for myself, right? I started out as an engineer. I don't even consider myself an engineer anymore because I've gotten so far away from it, like from the actual hands-on engineering work. Um, I am still quite technical, but I think people need to realize like they can have exposure, as Aubrey said, to the technical side of things and get proficiency in that through exposure or training. And I do advocate as much training as possible if you're going to go down that route. But don't expect that you're going to just be an engineer, like that you have to get up to being like a full-fledged production engineer. Like that is both unreasonable and unnecessary, in my opinion. You don't need that level of technical proficiency to operate in the ITDR space.
Well, what level should we have? Because there's a lot of fear about, talking with IT people, and business is just there. They're not hearing or understanding anything. So understanding that we're talking about transitioning, what do we need to do then to kind of take that first step? Is there anything we should know or try? Because it is fearful for many people to take that leap.
Yeah, I I will admit that it is again just only my opinion that the transition from non-technical to technical is likely harder than going from technical to non-technical because the non-technical skill sets require less training. Maybe that's not the right word, like less hands-on exposure to a lot of these things. And within the technical space, it can be so diverse and so all over the place that there's a lot more for you to have to learn and get up at least a minimum proficiency on like I understand what these engineers are saying to me or the people that I'm working with. Um, I think that's a reasonable level of proficiency you were asking, Alex. And that comes through two things, right? One is exposure, again, like Aubrey said, like get involved in it. Ask to shadow, ask to participate, volunteer for like, hey, reach out to your ITDR team and say like, hey, could you use some extra bodies during a DR test? Like, oh my gosh, as somebody who has run a DR team, like I would have been so thankful for that. And then the other thing is training. And in this day and age with like Coursera and some of these other, I'm just throwing Coursera out as the first thing that popped into my head, but there's so much free training out there that you don't have to go to school for this. Like it's stuff you can pick up via the web. Aubrey, what do you think?
No, I think that's right. In terms of like the level, I think, Alex, it really depends on how deep the individual wants to go into this world. But I agree with TJ, like understanding the environment at your current business through shadowing or asking a friend is really going to guide you into which trainings and which things you might want to delve deeper. Like you may be in a public cloud where you're looking at certain certifications, even if it's the kind of most basic one with Google and AWS and Azure, if that's the company you're in, to get the vocabulary you need to talk about the things. Basic understanding of ITDR kind of options in terms of warm, cold, hot can kind of give you an idea of the different capabilities. And that's another path someone might go down. And that's, a Google search away. I remember spending a lot of time on network configuration based on the way our company was built and trying to figure out what they had done because I didn't understand it. But I think being curious is really helpful. And asking those questions and finding that mentor that you can kind of go to. But depth is going to really depend on where you are and what your goals are for those conversations.
I want to add one thing to that too. And Aubrey, I'm glad you brought up vocabulary because that's important in either direction is
Mhm.
as long as you have a fundamental understanding of the vocabulary being used, you can add value, right? Like all of us have different skill sets that we've built over the years or come from, and we can add things. I've had people come into like DR exercises and it's like, oh, cool. I didn't even think about that. And I had an analyst come, she was working for me. She came from audit or not audit. Yeah, accounting, like accounting audit. And yeah, I was like, wow, I didn't even think about some of those things. So like that, because she understood, quickly came up to speed on the vocabulary we're using and was immediately able to contribute. So that's super important. The other thing too is that a lot of engineers are willing to give some of their time. It's as simple as, hey, ask questions, be curious. And like, I see Aubrey smiling, like, I see so many people that they're afraid to ask questions because they're like, oh, I don't want to upset that person, or I don't want to waste their time. Like, you're
Or
not,
I don't want to look dumb.
yeah, 100%. And I'd say 90 plus percent of the time, like that's not how it's going to be received. It's going to be like, oh, cool. They want to know more about what I'm doing. So look, have coffee with them, have lunch with them. And as Aubrey said, like find some people who are willing to share their information with you and like use that as a resource and then ask them like who else can I talk to? Like work your internal network within the company. Start small and then like build over time. And you'll find within a pretty quick amount of time that you'll cover a lot of ground and
Mhm.
you'll be able to intelligently speak about a whole lot of different things in the technology space.
I add
I
one
like,
more thing.
what's that?
Can I add one more thing to what
Sure.
TJ said earlier? So TJ, you said you don't consider yourself an engineer anymore, like you're not specialized, right? But I think one of the other things that this role can do is connect those groups at that high level because I remember finding that network, right? And talking to different people because I wanted to understand different things and then actually uncovering pieces and parts that other engineers weren't aware of within those siloed teams. So storage to middleware to application stack, like did you know our network does this? They're like, oh no, I didn't realize it was set up that way because they're not necessarily talking to each other either. And I am certainly not an engineer. But even the engineers don't have necessarily that global view depending on where you are. So you can be that connective layer in some cases to help build a better program.
I liked what you both mentioned about being a part of an ITDR test because that was my first uh, exposure to technology. And all I did was start taking notes. I just sat there as a note taker because they're busy trying to rebuild mainframes and they're coming across some issues. And I would just tell me what the issue is, and I wrote it down for them instead of them having to do it. And I ended up starting to understand, oh, now I understand how this happens. I never understood why it takes so long for, XYZ step to be implemented, but now I understand the concept behind it. And all it started off doing was taking notes for them. You had your hand up, Aubrey, sorry.
No, I was agreeing. That's literally my first step in the door as well. So I'm aligned.
And there are so many roles that you can play in a DR test. Like you could man the bridge, right? Like the call-in bridge, you could man the bridge. I mean, shoot, I at times like I've just been an observer getting people coffee and donuts or whatever, like and then you get to go sit in the little pods. Like if it's a physical DR test, you could go sit in the little pods like with those people and just like you said, Alex, listen, take notes. Um, and then you can start to get a little bit more involved. Like maybe you're the person that they put in like, okay, cool, you're going to work with the mainframe team. Cool. Okay, you're going to be our liaison, like working with the mainframe team as they get out on their own breakout bridge. Something, so all of those different things. I did that mainframe one as an open systems guy who I came up in the world via open systems. Like the first time that I sat with the mainframe guys and they were talking about IPLing a mainframe, I was like, what is that?
What?
I have no idea what that is. Now I know what that is, but yeah, it's those moments that you get exposure to things that you otherwise wouldn't.
And that's what you did, Aubrey?
Yeah,
That
a
kind of thing?
hundred, absolutely. And acronym city, I just start looking it up and asking the questions. I was joking with a friend yesterday that she said someone said something in a meeting today, and now I currently have 15 tabs open trying to understand it better. So that curiosity is really helpful in this space. Yes, TJ.
Yeah, this actually jogs. I know that sort of the intent of this was more for people transitioning in their career, but there's a little nugget of wisdom here that I'm hoping to share with people who are more senior in their career and running DR teams. Um, One super valuable thing that I found a couple of different times was that hey, if you have a team that's repeatedly there's issues with this team or there's some sort of technical issue or people issue or whatever, that you see it recurring somewhat regularly as you're doing your tests, as a leader, go sit with that team. Like, go sit and observe that team. They can't tell you no. Like, they can't say, no, you can't come sit with us. And you can sit there and observe and take the same approach as you would as a junior person. And then you'll get a lot more context about, like, okay, what's really happening here? Is it a technical problem? Is it a people problem? Is it a process problem? Like, what's causing this? And you'll start to get a better sense of that.
And I guess too, if you're a senior business person who understands process, that's going to help you understand the challenges the IT people may have when it comes to process as well, because you're going to have a certain set of skills that you can transfer over to them because they're only seeing the wires and the ports and and IP addresses and not understanding process, so to speak. And you can come in and teach them, oh, okay, yeah, and they can relate it to what they're doing.
Yeah. Too
So
many times I see DR teams, they get bogged down because they're running a test, right? They're running a test, doing all the things, but they get bogged down in that. And
yeah,
then you hear them say, like, oh, this whatever this team is, that team's constantly a problem in our tests. And then yeah, like, go find out.
yeah,
And don't just say they're a problem, like, go spend time with them.
yeah,
Maybe they're short staffed. Like, in one case, I found out, like, oh, it's literally one dude doing all the DNS updates for the entire test. I'm like, that's not sustainable. He can't do
yeah,
this 20 hours.
yeah, 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 I've been there. On that note, we've come to the end of our first segment. Today, we're talking with Aubrey Wade and TJ Mead about transitioning our business continuity roles into a more technical role. And we will be right back. If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.